Take a look at the show notes. We'd love to have you in the Bear With community. Pastor With No Answers patrons have access to this community. We're having some good times. Would love to have you. We've got some open seats for September original Bear Group experience. Would love to have you join us. Yo, happy 4th of July, everyone. Got a Do You Love America episode. We've got Jessica Reagan on for the first time, a friend of mine, her husband, Captain Joshua Reagan, C-17 pilot with the 16th Airlift Squadron at Charleston Air Force Base. Thank you, Captain Joshua Reagan, for all your services. And Jessica, you too, because you make the sacrifices as well. And Liz Miller, co-host, Robbie Madison, co-host. Hell yeah. Throwing about 3 episodes at you within the last 7 days. Probably take next week off. Happy 4th of July. All right, y'all good?
Yeah.
Yep. Sure.
All right. Oh, sure. Here with some friends. One is a brand new friend, Jessica Reagan. Jessica, welcome. It's so good to have a guest.
Hey.
And I'm acting all proper, and I don't know if I've ever used this voice on this show or used these faces that I'm using right now. Hi, guys. I want to tell all 3 of you, y'all were strategically chosen for this. Question at hand is, do you love your country? Do you love America? Well, first of all of y'all are on here because you're my friends, and I am interested in what you would have to say. Robbie, because I think we would all agree the promises this country has made, we're still catching up with minorities. You're someone who has lived that, and I have not walked in your shoes. Liz, your father has whispered something into someone's ear, and that person whispered into Ronald Reagan's ear. So your dad was like, I just think that's the coolest thing ever.
He told you that story?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
I feel like I need to know this story.
What did he whisper? Your flies down?
Some classified top secret sort of deal. But when he told me that, I was like, you whispered something into someone's ear, and that person whispered into Ronald Reagan's
That's
ear.
pretty cool. I mean, I forgot about that, but I did know that story. You kind of take for granted the things that you have or experience when you grow up until other people that don't grow up in a military household.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then Jessica, her husband is honorably serving right now. It's Air Force, right?
Yep. C-17 pilot.
Been through seasons where he's been gone for how long?
Well, he's gone now. He just got back from a deployment about a month ago, and now he's gone again for another month. I probably see him like 8 months a year.
We are thankful for him and for you. Thought about this one. This one is very easy for me. I freaking love our country. It has everything to do with the people that make up the country. In the Olympics, it brings my heart so much joy to see white people, Americans, black people, Americans, Asian people, Americans. And I just love to see the Americans kick other countries' asses. Like, I love America. I will seriously.
What's wrong with you?
In sporting events, when those jets fly over, I'm probably going to get a little choked up. I also am at a place in my life where I don't know which wars we should have fought. Like, I have a lot more skepticism of government, honesty of presidents in the past. Like, I definitely have a lot of cynicism towards the government, but for me, that has nothing to do with the American people. I mean, just the history of African Americans and what they endured. I mean, a few other things. I believe that I say obviously, I think everybody thinks this. I believe all soldiers, all military personnel should be honored and revered, regardless of what you think about what they're doing, because they're just taking orders. I think it is hilarious that we denounce rioting and violence against the country when we had the biggest riot ever called the Revolutionary War. I really think it's funny. Freaking kill people for our freedom. I'm like, good gosh.
Yep.
Let's go to you, Robbie. Do you love our country, my man?
Just coming in hot.
Coming in hot.
Dang.
Okay. Robbie, go ahead and tell everybody what you pulled out of the oven. Is that what you want to do?
Joey's so sour he
Can we
didn't
just,
get any of that
warm up to the
flatbread.
conversation a little bit? I'm just playing. My view and my emotion toward our country, I think, definitely has evolved a lot as I've become an adult. When you were talking about like the planes flying over and fireworks and things like that, I think I have like a lot of nostalgic memories of that. I also grew up in the Boy Scouts, so it was always like a big deal. Yeah, why are you laughing?
Because every time you talk about yourself as a kid, I immediately think Urkel. So I just thought Urkel in a Boy Scout uniform. No, Jessica, I'm not mean. Robbie told me this. See, I'm not this bad guy. Robbie said in elementary school he looked like Urkel, so I was just thinking Boy Scout Urkel. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Robbie, do you regret telling me that? Robbie, do you regret telling me that?
I'm sure he does.
Elizabeth keeps that photo like in her wallet all the time.
Oh,
Like, randomly pulls it out just for like a chuckle.
All right, Boy Scout Robbie.
Actually, Eagle Scout Robbie.
Oh, are you being serious?
oh shoot!
Are you being serious?
Oh
Yeah,
shoot!
I don't tell anybody.
Dude, that's
I have
hardcore.
this like irrational fear that I'm gonna get stuck in the woods and I'm gonna be the one to have to get us out.
Don't tell
Like,
anybody you're an Eagle Scout at that
I
moment.
know. I never tell anybody. I'm like,
You're a ninja. You're an Eagle Scout. It's awesome.
But anyway, like I spent a lot of time camping, and 4th of July was always like one of my favorite times of year because we always did these, we did these ceremonies, we had fireworks or bonfires, and then we would always play the song. Proud to be an American, well, at least I know, and I'm like listening to the song, and I actually remember like welling up a few times, and Lynn
Lee
Greenwood.
Greenwood.
Yeah.
Lee.
Yeah, Lee Greenwood.
Lee.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I do get still emotional, but I think that I didn't have a lot of understanding of, number one, what our country has really done to get where we are. In a lot of cases, I will say Black people, Native Americans, just a lot of people have been through. If history changes depending on who's telling the story, really. I think if Native Americans tell the story, it would sound a lot different. They wouldn't really listen to a lot of the same songs that we would and celebrate it in the same way. And actually, I think I was thinking about it just like 2 weeks ago because we had Juneteenth. And I had a friend of mine reach out to me and ask me my thoughts on Juneteenth and like, should the church say something about it, acknowledge it, and you could tell by the question that he was white. And so, I told him, I was like, I prefer if we have maybe a conversation about it instead of responding in text message. But the question popped in my head. Oh yeah, part of his question was, how should we celebrate Juneteenth? And I just said, look, I didn't grow up celebrating Juneteenth. That's something that's pretty new for me. Ironically, I live 40 minutes away from Galveston right now where it all happened. I didn't know anything about it. And so I didn't grow up celebrating it. And I said, well, in a few weeks, we're going to celebrate, Independence Day. How do we celebrate that? Like, there's a lot that's around celebrating Independence Day, but yet you're questioning me about should we celebrate Juneteenth when it truly represents when Black people recognized in the midst of their illiteracy and illegal slavery, they recognized that they were actually free. First time that Black people who were stolen, taken away, forced into slavery, many died, all of it. I think I had the realization that is actually a truer Independence Day for America than the 4th of July is. And I never really thought about it until a few weeks ago. Like, yes, I absolutely love America. I love that I grew up here. I am like so appreciative of the opportunities that I have right now, but I don't take it for granted and forget the past and forget that like I'm one of the first people in my family line to have a degree and then a master's degree. My parents are educated, yes, but it's different. I was the first one to go to like a formal college and definitely the first to go to a graduate level, anything like that. And so I really understand like I have a great appreciation for America, not for necessarily America, but like you said, the people who make up America and those who fought so that the reality that we intended on having became more of a reality. I think we're still working towards that. And that I think is the part that is beautiful and inspiring, filled with hope. And having lived in other countries and been in other countries, I think I realize a lot more the benefits that we have. It's just a blessing in a lot of ways to be here.
I do have mixed emotions with July the 4th because we're celebrating 1776 And you think how early that was and how so much time had to pass before how African Americans were treated for a good 200 years. July the 4th is definitely something that's just not this. Everything is happy. There really is more to the story. All right, well, let's go to Jessica, whose husband is currently in the military. Jessica, what you think? Do you love your country?
I do. Kind of similar to Joey. I do. I think America is the greatest country on earth. I was raised in the South. I'm from Tennessee, Southern Baptist. A lot of it has to totally do with how I was raised, I'm sure. But also, I kind of look at it as, let's say, when a baseball team wins the World Series, they're considered to be the best baseball team in the world. Every single player on that team holds the best position ever, but overall, they are the best team in the world. So that's kind of like how I look at America. We obviously have policies and people that suck pretty hard. We need to change and we need to progress in a lot of ways. But I think overall, we are the best country in the world. A lot of that has to do with like economics, civil liberties. Overall, I think it's mostly for the people. I think we're resilient. I think at the core of the American people, we care about each other. I think I see that most when we do go through times of crisis. Personal experience, having a husband that's active duty. We have experienced stuff with Afghanistan last year, even the Ukraine situation this year. We have been a pretty close part of those situations. And we've seen the military community, the American people, not just the military community, but our communities, the American people, come together to help not just ourselves, the media kind of wants us to always think is, we're selfish and we're horrible, helping these other countries. So that's kind of at the core of us. I think we are good people at our core.
And this isn't me saying anything so our government's great. It isn't a statement about our government or anything like that, but bottom line, with all the stuff that we can be disgusted about with our country and some of our leaders, people are still trying to get here.
I just think we have the most opportunity than any other place on earth. And that's what's appealing to people that are willing to literally my husband's a C-17 pilot. We know the people who had the Afghanistans that were hanging onto the side of their jet, falling off and dying. People were willing to do that to risk the chance to get here. So I think we are doing something right in a lot of ways.
I feel like I'm going to be the cynical one of this group.
I was expecting that. I mean, you voted for Trump in 2016, and then he just disappointed you. So you were upset about how he performed. And then...
That's not even a funny joke. Oh, my God. Oh, Lord.
Are we seriously in an era where if you make fun of somebody for being a Trump voter, that's you can get canceled?
Probably.
I think we are. Yeah.
Probably.
For sure.
All right, Liz, talk shit about our country. My gosh.
I'm not going to talk.
Do you want to go
for
somewhere
sure.
else? What?
New Zealand. Yeah. I've already got it figured out.
I got a little list going too.
We have a spreadsheet.
And Liz, I'm curious,
just
before
saying.
you say anything, do you discuss this kind of stuff with your dad?
Not wanting to go to New Zealand with my dad, but I do discuss my thoughts, feelings, and issues. My family knows very much so how I feel. I try not to get in arguments with them because that's never productive. The things that affect me don't affect them. And unless I tell them about it, they're never going to know. When you're privileged, and my parents are, I'm privileged, but my parents don't have to experience some of the things or worry about some of the things that I have to worry about, like their marriage not being legal. My parents live pretty. So I have to explain my worries, my fears to them so that way they understand it. And I think that most people would agree it's not until you experience something that you start to change your views or it happens to somebody close to you. My dad left the Episcopal Church because they had gay priests, and now he's like, let's go to this church because they have gay priests. I know that they would want me to be able to, they might not like it at first. I'm sure that none of it feels good when somebody's saying something to you that you don't really vibe with at first, but I know my parents will think about it. I think it's important to talk about those things. Otherwise, they'll never, ever know. Robbie was saying, I grew up literally singing that song, Proud to be an American, would get chill bumps. I grew up at West Point with the cannons. They would fire the cannons every 4th of July. And I just had this amazing view and feeling about America because my dad told me all of these things. I believe everything my dad says. And I believe that he believed it. I don't think he was lying, but he was so proud or is so proud to be an American. And he, fights for our country also. And so he is very, very proud. I just grew up with that always being, the American flag. It symbolizes opportunity and freedom and hope and all these amazing things. And then as I became an adult, I feel like I took off those rose-colored glasses and I was like, I have freedom. I have opportunity. I have hope until I am trying to do X, Y, and Z, or if I don't feel like we're doing a great job representing that. But I also want to believe that that is a smaller population that's not doing a great job. I want to believe that the greater population of the United States of America is in it to provide freedom and hope and opportunity and take care of people. And like what Jessica's husband does, seeing people want to attach themselves to a plane to get here. I want you to come here. And I just want America to want people to come here too. I don't understand why we can't share. We're not good at sharing.
Liz, I grew up the same way. I pretty much was taught that America is the Christian country, God's anointed. We might as well have just called America Israel Part 2. It was just we are God's people. Would y'all say this is a fair statement that if this nation is a Christian nation, it's the religion of Christianity? We are not a Christian nation. So again, if you want to say that most people ascribe to the religion of Christianity, okay. But the definition of being a Christian is a gospel-centeredness. Bottom line, from the get-go, we were not giving and selfless and sacrificial. In fact, we said, move the hell out of our way, Native Americans, and let's have slaves. So you guys good with this is not a Christian nation? I just am like, why isn't God's kingdom enough for Christians? Seriously, the Christians that are just so God and America, Christian nationalism. I'm like, is God's kingdom not enough? I'm really happy that I get to concentrate on that kingdom, and then I can love my country, the good and the bad, because I love the people. But as far as this American fan, as far as the government and having to defend whether or not we're honest and selfless and all that stuff, it's that doesn't matter to me. I'm part of a different kingdom.
I don't see us as a Christian nation. I know that we have the highest population of Christians, but I don't think that makes us a Christian nation for sure. That's more of a heart thing. I wish that the church did such a good job at loving people and being the hands and feet of Jesus that there was no other option than for everyone else to become a Christian.
Amen.
I think if the church was doing its job, then we would be.
Yep. It would be more attractive to be a believer if people actually loved others.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
What's that like?
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like Christians want it to be a Christian nation. I grew up in Northern Virginia. My dad was stationed at the Pentagon multiple times, so we lived there the longest. And I just had so many Jewish friends, Muslim friends. Northern Virginia, when you live outside of DC, it's the melting pot of the world and it's beautiful. And I moved to Charleston, and that was the first thing that I was like, I don't know if I can live here. And I really wanted to live near the beach. Clearly I stayed, but it bothered me. And it was something that I didn't realize that other people had not been exposed to. I don't know. I think it's really, really arrogant for us to push our own faith on other people. I agree. I think if we were so great at making Christians look like the hands and feet of Jesus, then people would maybe want to be Christian. But I also still feel like there has to be that part where you have to be okay if not everybody is subscribing to your faith. I would have never survived in Northern Virginia. I would have had no friends. If they were like thinking that I was going to try and convert every single one of them, they wouldn't want to be friends with me. They would be like, do you like me at all? You know, just because they live in the United States doesn't mean they're going to be Christian. I don't think it needs to be a Christian nation. I think that if the majority of us are Christian, that's great. I think that's part of our problem is we think that everybody has to go by the Bible and we put laws into place based on it. Yet we say there's separation of church and state, and there's not.
What laws are you thinking of when you say that?
When
like
I
the
say
abortion
what?
stuff, that we put laws into place based off the Bible?
Sorry, I am like Dory the goldfish. I literally will forget what I said 2 seconds prior. So I was like,
So Liz,
I have
real
to-
quick, we're talking about Do We Love This Country? That's the show.
Oh my God.
That's the show.
Right.
I do love my country. I just, I love my kids, but they disappoint me and I want to make them better. I love my country. I don't want to have to move, but we have a lot of work to do.
And I don't know how common these sentiments are. I know it would be more common in the South. I have heard someone in the last 6 months, it's probably about 6 months ago, tell me that slavery wasn't that bad. What is it in someone who wants to believe their country is so good that they would minimize
Because it didn't affect
American slavery? It also bothers me, this whole, prayer was removed from the schools. And then next thing you know, we're handing out condoms. And they say we want to go back to the old days when blacks and whites weren't allowed to be in school together. I mean, it's like we have gotten a lot better with a lot of stuff. It's just interesting how we overlook those sorts of things that were atrocious back in the day. But I'm not saying that we don't have a lot of work to do.
They don't even want us to teach it. I mean, I'm a middle school teacher. They don't want the truth to come out because then it makes us look bad. And that's okay. It's not me that did it. It's people that came way before me. But you need to admit that they did it. Like that has to be taught. Otherwise, history will repeat itself. I think it's ridiculous that they don't want these kids to know what really happened when all of us came over here.
And I think it's called Hello Charleston. A turtle walking through Charleston or whatever, a sea turtle. But like, and it just, it goes to the pineapple downtown and it goes through like a bunch of different things. But there's one page on it.
Are you in the middle of it? Like, where's the bookmark? How far?
I'm like chapter 13. I'm just playing. It's only like 6 pages. But one of the pages is literally the turtle stops at a plantation and he's like, these are plantations in Charleston. They're beautiful homes where lots of parties were made. And then like in the picture, there's like this person that's basically kind of like shucking wheat. And it's like this white person with like a basket and it's like shucking wheat. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? I'm not reading this to my kids. Or, and then I find myself like adding more to the page. I was like, actually, baby,
let me tell you.
I was like,
Robbie, that actually, I've never thought to ask you this, but for people that don't know this in the South, it is a pretty common thing for people to have like old-timey Black people figurines, like old-timey paintings of, and not necessarily a picture of a woman picking cotton, but a woman sitting there making a basket. But that's got to feel kind of offensive or at least weird when you've seen this, right, Robbie? I mean,
yeah. There's all kinds of like things preserving the old South, and yes, it is uncomfortable. No offense to this, but like the trend to use cotton for decorating your house right now, that's really popular. That's still a little uncomfortable,
Wow.
But it's probably always going to be. It doesn't mean that somebody's being racist. I mean, it does look good, but like,
but it triggers you.
Yeah, it does. It triggers, and so it's like, it's something that people wouldn't really think about per se. I will say on the flip side, when I got to Houston, we went to the Museum of Fine Art and they had a sweetgrass basket on display talking about Charleston. I was like, that is where it should be. For me, that was almost like a feeling of redemption of like, yeah, we need to celebrate what we do as American. I'm a jazz singer. I'm a jazz artist. So that's America's music. And when you look at old jazz films, like you'll see kind of how life was. It'll be a little bit harder to watch now. Like once your eyes are open of like, man, life actually used to be this way. And we've come a long way. Jazz is one of the most intelligent, intricate art forms that we have in the world. It's still evolving, and it's America's music. And not just America's music, it actually started with Black Americans. And so it's just kind of like one of those things where we should be celebrating more American creations, artwork, cultural thing, like the things. We should look at our mistakes and how we've changed them and celebrate that. But you can't celebrate it if you ignore it.
As I get older, I really am a mixed bag with this conversation, but it was hard for me to admit that there's a possibility. And now I think there's a real good possibility that some of the wars that we've been involved in, greed may have been the catalyst. Obviously the economy can really flourish during war times, but I want to believe, and I still do, that in World War II, we just wanted to stop the bad guy. But I look back on Desert Storm. I mean, I'm old enough to remember that. I was a teenager, and it's like, man, that was kind of about oil. And I hate the cynicism, but I am curious how you guys view war. And I want to acknowledge the Reagan family, that it doesn't matter to them whether or not they think something is just. Their family is going to be affected. That's such a tricky thing. Have you guys kind of lost your innocence, so to speak, as far as trusting, hey, when we're in a war, I guess we're supposed to be in it?
I kind of struggle with not trusting my government. I do understand those feelings of, like whenever we're going into another country and doing these things, like, should we really be doing that? What's the agenda behind that? Like, what's happening behind the scenes? I definitely always have those thoughts and think through those things. However, I can't really let myself go too far down that path because I mean, this is my life. This is my husband's life. I kind of have to blindly trust that what we're doing is for good. But I also think, like, for the most part, yes, obviously people benefit and make money out of war. There's always someone that comes out on top, and it's usually not someone of high esteem. Even if you go back to any of the wars that I can really think of, I think there was always that we could say we were doing it to help innocent people of some sort. Like, we can always say, there's always that justification that our government kind of falls back on. So I think that's kind of how they get away with it. But like, I remember 9/11, I was in high school when that happened. I remember seeing it unfold on the TV. And then I remember when President Bush like speeches and got us all riled up, and we were all cheering that we were going to go fight the bad guy. Like, I remember that. And I remember feeling like, hell yeah, we need to go to war, and we need to bomb these bad guys and fuck them up. I don't necessarily know that it's healthy to go down the road of, are these things just, in reality, what can we do about it? My husband's in it, so I'm going to assume the best.
Well, I know you probably can't say anything about Josh, Jessica. Would he say that he has a general trust for what he's doing?
Yeah, he would. The general consensus of the military community is that we're the good guys. And if they didn't feel that way, I don't think they would sign up to do what they're doing. So I think they believe in what they're doing. Josh's job, in and out of some pretty horrible places on a regular basis.
As far as danger?
Yep. So he's probably going to get mad at me if I say so. I won't give like specific stuff, but when he was on
right now, what is his mission? Please tell us his mission. And do you have his coordinates?
His tail number. The recent deployment that he got back from, I mean, he was in and out of the country almost daily doing things that he just had to do, no questions asked. In this one certain place, like, they hate America so much and our military so much that security forces has to come on his jet. They have to go in the middle of the night. They have to wear their night vision goggles, turn all the lights off on the jet, like literally try to be as invisible as possible, land in the middle of the night. Security forces come out of the jet, surround the jet with their weapons to protect them. They drop off what they're dropping off as fast as possible and then get back up into the air, because this country like hates us so much and they want to kill us, yet we're dropping off things to help them, and we're still giving them aid, and we're still passing along certain goods.
This is going to sound really cheesy, but that does my heart well to hear that. Seriously, I think I'm inundated with the cynicism and the doubt and just the distrust.
Yeah, we need to hear more of those stories.
I love that. I love the fact that we were trying to help people that didn't want us there. To me, that shows a deeper intent. I mean,
well, that is what America is to the people that grew up feeling the way that we did. That's representing what we feel like is being lost, but maybe we're just not hearing enough of these amazing stories and the sacrifice that these military families are going through.
I think people would definitely trust more of the wars and think the situations that we're getting involved in. I think people would trust them more and be less skeptical if they knew everything that was happening behind the scenes that our men and women in uniform are doing. But we just don't. You don't see that stuff on the news. Overall, we can trust that we're the good guys.
This is super interesting to me. I would imagine at every level of military personnel, you can't really talk crap about a president regardless of who it is, because that's your boss, right? Like, can you get in trouble for saying something about the president?
Yes.
Yeah.
You would never hear Josh say anything bad about his president.
Yeah.
Whether or not he voted for them, regardless of personal feelings, that is his boss. It's the commander in chief.
We'll wrap this thing up here soon, but I do want to talk, obviously an old story. This isn't fresh off the press at all, but Colin Kaepernick and just what that stand that he took represents. I'll tell y'all how I grew up here in the South when we saw pictures, and I think it was in the 1960s, of the Olympic African-American athletes with their basically Black Power fist up in the air. The white people that I was around, how they reacted towards that, I saw those as bad men. Like, not bad as in like criminals, but, oh, that's disrespectful to our country. I can't believe they did that. Now I see it completely different. I may not be as educated with exactly what the vibe is supposed to be, but I've never seen it as disrespectful. I would see it as disrespectful if he walked out, or if he put his middle fingers in the air. But it seems like he's making a statement of, I don't think everything's cool here. I'm going to be here with my friends and my fellow Americans, but I'm going to take a knee, because right now I don't want to stand here like everything's okay. Like, I don't have a problem with that at all. If you ask me, hey, do you believe in rioting? I mean, if you want a yes or no answer to that, I'd say no. I don't like to see people's businesses and houses are destroyed. But if you don't like Kaepernick kneeling in a football game, then how are Black people supposed to voice their opinions if you don't even like someone kneeling on the ground? That to me is just like crazy. Okay, you're upset about the rioting. What do you want them to do then? Because you didn't like a guy kneeling down. Now, I understand people that think it's disrespectful. I don't see it that way. And I'm thinking maybe that's offensive to Jessica.
Yeah, there might be an unpopular opinion in the room, but I find it offensive.
No, and I don't find that offensive.
Well, that's good.
How do you feel about what I said? Like, when I see him kneeling, I don't think he's disrespecting people who lay down their life for our country, but I can see how people would.
And that's kind of the biggest thing, is whether or not he meant for it to be construed that way. And I doubt that he did mean for it to be, but it is kind of spitting on the face of all the men and women that died. Also, I don't think it has to be like riot or kneel. Like, I think there's some middle ground here where like he could have voiced his opinions and concerns and protested in other manners.
Real quick, Jessica, and this isn't meant to be confrontational at all. Are you assuming that, or has he said something that has led you to believe that it's kind of a spit in the face? Or is that just what that means to you?
Yeah, that's what that means to me as a military spouse. The fact that he lives in a country where he has the ability to take a knee during his national anthem without getting beheaded, for example, like, legitimately, there are tons of countries overseas that my husband has been in and out of where if you were to disrespect your country's national anthem, you would be murdered. That whole like being ashamed of being American is kind of like what it feels like is the core of it. Yeah. And maybe that is or isn't seems like if he would be willing to disrespect his national anthem, then he's ashamed of being an American. And the fact that he even has the freedom to be ashamed publicly of his country shows that America is great. It all is just kind of tied up.
And you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, so you hate the San Francisco 49ers. We get it. I
Broncos.
I really do get all that. I totally understand. This one's a tricky one. I'm curious, Robbie,
it's tricky.
What you think. And I do think I mean, obviously, I think you're right, Jessica. It really does boil down to, if you were to ask him, hey, what statement? What are you trying to say here? If he said, all of our wars were shit, all these sacrifices were for nothing. I mean, I'd be like, whoa, man. But if it was, hey, we're not where we need to be at as a society. Okay, I got it. But
okay, so our country, we do have a culture, but we also have like a lot of subcultures. I think it's built up of a bunch of different experiences, and I think that we interpret life in a lot of different ways. And actually, just the other day, I was talking to a buddy of mine. I was kind of teasing him a little bit because, one of his pet peeves is if somebody is late. Like, for him, it's extremely offensive. Like, you were disrespecting him, you were disrespecting his time, all these things. And I was like, dang, is that intense? But, I started hearing that interpretation when I was like in college or post-college. I was like, being late, is that offensive? Do you know what it's like to be Black? Like, we're never on time. Like, literally, I configured at least an extra 20 or 30 minutes for my wedding because I knew that people were not, and so I don't even have time in that same category. I've had to learn that perspective to be able to respect others in that way. Obviously, we started this talking about how I'm an Eagle Scout. One thing I will never do, because it's ingrained in me, is like, my flag is never going to touch the ground.
Yeah.
I don't have a flag in my front yard. If I have a flag, you better believe I can fold it the right way. It's not going to touch the ground. If it does touch the ground, I'm going to retire that flag in the proper way. That's just like, I'm American. That's, and I do respect the flag. Coming from the world of public figures, especially those who are expected to comport themselves in a particular way in every situation, it does become very limiting knowing if I want to share my voice, share my opinion peacefully without getting crazy, how am I able to do that? Kind of how you talked about like a middle ground. For him, I don't really know. I don't know him. I just feel like there is a lot more that could have communicated something more disrespectful, or for me, disrespectful in general. I believe it communicated as a person who every action that he does is going to be posted in the media. Everything that he says, whether he supports something or doesn't support something, everything is going to be posted in the media. In the wake of what was happening, I think that he was trying to say that it wasn't okay. I don't think he was trying to say that he was un-American or hates his country. I think that what he was trying to say is that this is an area that we didn't get it right. And this is an area that we wanted to get better. A few weeks ago with the shooting that was a few hours away from here, I had some pretty heavy conversations with the athletes and allowing them a space to be able to process all the emotions, unfiltered, talk about what's going on. How are you feeling? Some of those feelings may have been construed as appropriate and some of them may have been construed as inappropriate. But that was the safe space to fall apart. We said, in 5 minutes, you're going to leave this door. There's going to be cameras in your face. You have to think about and process what you're going to be posting, how you're going to present yourself, because people are going to watch that and it's going to multiply and it's going to, so there is a lot of pressure for sure. I don't particularly think that was a gross demonstration. I don't view it as that personally, but I completely understand how people do view it like that. I think that something more disrespectful would have been lashing out against America, interrupting, I don't know. I picture something a little bigger than solemnly, quietly kneeling during the song if he wanted to communicate sentiments that he didn't want to be American or hated America.
I grew up going to the movie theater and they played the national anthem before every movie when you live on base. And so everybody stands up and they play the national anthem. And like Christians are afraid of going to hell, I was afraid to drop a flag. If I was like, do not let that flag touch the ground, because my dad ingrained that in me. And
still
I
like
feel
that.
like, I mean, I'm like fearful.
That's blaspheming the Holy Spirit. Actually, it's
Yeah.
not talking bad about the Holy Spirit. It's dropping the American flag. I don't know if y'all knew that. It's in the Greek. You have to trace it back.
Oh my
to-
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop. I do feel like there's always multiple ways you can handle a situation. I think that I want to give him credit for doing something peacefully. And then I also think there's always room for improvement. Like Robbie said, he could have posted something on social media. There are other ways for him to get his views across because his views are valid, fair, they meant something. And I think that it meant a lot for him to kind of share his opinion. And I think it probably made other people feel like, okay, I'm not alone. Like, people can relate to how he felt. But in the manner of which it happened, it's just kind of like, well, now, not that it discredits things, but it's hard for people that are super one way to even listen to what he had to say. For me, I was like, well, I'm not sure that felt yucky to me when I first saw that. And I had no idea exactly what was going through his mind and exactly how he felt. And then I, did research and read about it. But not everybody's going to do that. They're just going to be like, I can't believe so and so did that, and be mad that they didn't, stand for the national anthem. I think it's important to understand why people feel the way that they feel. And I think that there may have been other ways that he could have handled it to where people that need to hear what he has to say would have listened better than the manner of which he did it, not standing for the national anthem. That's going to make people that are incredibly patriotic not want to listen to him.
I'm not a big person of conflict. I'm a pretty peaceful person in general. If I was to put Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, together on a table, I would go with Martin Luther King. That's just kind of my personality. We're talking about this because he did it. One of my buddies was like, I just don't think that we're supposed to be out there loud activists and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's my personality. Yeah, to not be out there loud and boisterous. But I am grateful for those who are, because it opens up these conversations. Actually talk about what is it and what changes can we make. Maybe he kind of canceled himself in that.
But we're having a conversation about it because it impacted us. And if maybe he had just posted something, not as many people would have had an emotional reaction to it to pay attention to what he had to say. So maybe, I totally understand that. I agree.
Yeah. I wouldn't have done the same thing probably, but
would all you guys, if I gave y'all a really nice shirt and you thought it was super stylish and it had an American flag on it, would y'all wear it? Or is the American flag canceled for any of y'all?
I wear a Captain America shirt that looks pretty dope.
Yeah. That's Robbie's form of patriotism.
I'd rather wear a Wonder Woman shirt.
I would wear an American flag onesie, head to toe.
Heck yeah.
A onesie head to toe. I love that.
Head to toe.